Zakat on domestic animals. 35 domestic animals include 6 types: sheep, goats, cattle, buffalo, camels, and horses. Among these, animals raised for the purpose of milking, breeding, and fattening, provided they spend more than half the year grazing in meadows and pastures are called SAIME. The plural form of this is SEVAIM, animals that graze in these pastures and meadows for 6 months or less and are raised for these purposes are not considered SAIME and are therefore not subject to zakat. Likewise, animals that are grazed on pastures for a short or long period solely for riding, carrying loads, or being slaughtered for their meat are also not subject to zakat. The rules regarding goods intended for trade are set forth below. 36 a specified amount of zakat is collected once a year from same animals, depending on their species, as follows. 1. Zakat on sheep and goats. The zakat threshold, NISAB, for sheep and goats, classified as sane, is 40. If their number is less than 40, no zakat is due. When their number reaches 40, one sheep is given as zakat. There is no zakat due from 40 to 100. 21 sheep. From 121 to 201 sheep, 2 sheep are given as zakat. From 201 to 400 sheep, 3 sheep are given. For exactly 400 sheep, 4 sheep are given as zakat. After that, 1 sheep is given for every 100 sheep. The number of sheep that do not meet the minimum threshold is not relevant to zakat. A sheep to be given as zakat must be at least 1 year old. This is the correct view. Goats are treated the same as sheep. They are considered a single category. They are counted together to meet the NISAB threshold. Thus, 1 sheep is required as zakat from a herd of 30 sheep and 10 goats. Male and female animals are equal for the purposes of zakat calculation. The animal given as zakat may be either male or female. If there is a mix of sheep and goats, it is sunnah to pay zakat from the species that is more numerous. If they are equal in number, the owner may pay zakat from whichever gender they prefer. However, if all the animals are the same gender, zakat must be paid from that gender. One cannot pay zakat with goats instead of sheep, or with sheep instead of goats. 2. Zakat on cattle and buffaloes. The NISAB for cattle owned by a household is 30. Zakat is not required for fewer than this number. For 30 to 40 cattle, 1 male or female calf that has reached the age of 2 is given as zakat. For 40 to 60 cattle, 1 male or female heifer that has reached the age of 3 is given. When the herd reaches exactly 60 head of cattle, 2 calves that have completed 1 year of age are given. Then the calculation continues by giving 1 calf for every 30 head and 1 young cow for every 40 head. Example, just as 1 calf and 1 heifer may be given as zakat for 70 heifers, 2 heifers may be given for 80 heifers, 3 calves for 90 heifers, for 100 head of cattle, 1 young bull and 2 calves. And for 110 head of cattle, the owner has the option to give either 4 calves or 3 young bulls. This is because there are 4 30s and 3 40s in this calculation. This procedure also applies to larger numbers. In terms of zakat, there is nitrogen monoxide difference between cattle and buffalo. They are considered a single category. When they are mixed together, they are counted together. If there are 20 cattle and 10 buffalo, zakat is paid in the form of a calf that has reached 2 years of age. Whichever of these 2 types is in greater number, zakat is taken from that type. If both types are equal in number, zakat is paid from the best of the type of lower value or from the lowest quality of the type of higher value. If the cattle are of lower value, zakat is paid from the best calves of these cattle, thereby ensuring balance. 3. Zakat on camels. The NISAB for camels is 5. There is nitrogen monoxide zakat on camels, numbering less than 5, for 5 camels that have reached 1 year of age. 1 sheep is given as zakat. For numbers between 5 and 10, zakat is waived. For herds ranging from 10 to 25 camels, 1 sheep must be given for every 5. 4. exactly 25 camels. A female camel calf that has reached the age of 2 must be given. Nitrogen monoxide other item is required. For herds up to 35 camels, for exactly 36 to 45 camels, a female camel that has completed 3 years of age must be given. For 46 to 60 camels, a female camel that has reached 4 years of age must be given. For exactly 61 to 75 camels, one female camel that has reached the age of 5 must be given. For 46 to 60 camels, a female camel that has reached 4 years of age must be given. For exactly 61 to 75 camels, one female camel that has reached the age of 5 must be given. For 76 to 90 camels, 2 female camels, each having reached the age of 3, must be given. For a total of 91 to 120 camels, 2 female camels that have reached the age of 4 are given. From 120 camels up to 145 camels, 1 sheep is given for every 5 camels, including 2 camels at the age of 4. Beyond 145 camels, zakat is paid, according to the standards set forth in our books of Islamic jurisprudence. IT makes nitrogen monoxide difference, whether the camels subject to zakat are a mix of male and female, or whether they are Arabian or Persian camels. However, IT is a condition that the camels to be given as zakat be of average value. If a male camel is given, IT is given based on its value. 37 for livestock that reach the NISAB amount at the beginning of the year. If an additional number of livestock of the same kind is added during the year through donations, inheritance, or purchase, additional livestock of the same kind are added to the herd that met the NISAB threshold at the beginning of the year. Zakat must be paid on the entire herd at the end of the year. According to Imam Shafi, regardless of whether the added portion reaches the NISAB threshold or not, it is not subject to zakat until 1 year has passed from the date of acquisition. 38. Blind and weak animals among the herd are also included in the NISAB calculation. However, they are not given as zakat. 3.9 zakat is not required on lambs that are part of the herd but have not yet reached 1 year of age, nor on calves, buffalo calves, or camel calves. This is according to Imam Azam and Imam Muhammad, even if their numbers far exceed the NISAB amount. However, if there are adult animals of the same species among these young animals, zakat is required for them based on the adults. For example, if there is 1 sheep and 39 lambs from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, that sheep is given as zakat at the end of the year. Given just 1 of these lambs is not sufficient. Likewise, if there are 29 calves and 1 cow, a calf that has reached the age of 2 must be given. Similarly, if there are 4 camel calves and 1 camel that is 2 or 3 years old, 1 sheep must be given. If these older animals die during the year OR, after the year has ended, nitrogen monoxide Qadar is required for the remaining lambs and calves. According to Imam Abu Yusuf, if any of these animals that have not yet reached these ages reach the NISAB threshold, zakat is required. Thus, 1 lamb is given as zakat for every 40 lambs. This is also the opinion of Imam Shafi. 40 for grazing animals. The amount between 2 NISAB thresholds is unanimously exempt from zakat. Therefore, zakat is not required. If these animals, which are not subject to zakat, perish, their loss does not affect the obligation of zakat, according to Imam Al-Azam and Imam Abu Yusuf. However, according to Imam Muhammad and Imam Zufar, if these animals perish, zakat is reduced proportionately. For example, if a person has 60 sheep, zakat is due on only 1 sheep out of those 40. Until the number reaches 120 sheep, zakat is not required for the remaining 20 sheep. They are exempt from zakat. In this case, I have 10 or 20 of these 60 sheep die. According to Imam Azam and Imam Abu Yusuf, zakat equal to 1 sheep must still be paid on the remaining 40 sheep. However, according to Imam Muhammad and Imam Zufar, if 10 or 20 of such 60 sheep perish, the zakat is reduced proportionally. That is to say, If 10 sheep are lost, the zakat amount is reduced by 1/6 of a sheep. If 20 sheep are lost, the zakat amount is reduced by 2/6 of a sheep.